Hamlet, Act 2, Scene 1. In this scene, Polonius describes to his servant Rinaldo just how to spy on his son at university. He advises him to use a roundabout or indirect way of inquiry, as this will come closer to the truth than by direct questions. Polonius speaks. Take you, or pretend, as it were, some distant knowledge of him, like, not well, but if it be he I mean, he is very wild, addicted to so-and-so, and there put on him what forgeries or made-up tales you please. Marry, none so rank that may dishonor him, but, sir, such wanton or unrestrained, wild and usual slips, as are companions noted and most known to youth and liberty. The flash and outbreak of a fiery mind, a savageness in unreclaimed or unchecked blood, of general assault, meaning that which afflicts all young men, and to the purpose of sounding out what the other fellow may know of his son, as perchance to the reaction of, I know the gentleman, I saw him yesterday, or the other day, or then, with such and such. And as you say, there was a gaming, or gambling. There overtook in his rouse. There a falling out, or quarreling at tennis. Or perchance I saw him enter such a house of sale, a brothel, or so forth. Polonius is a true meddler and a spy. It is deeply rooted in his blood, and it is beyond the scope of his family, for he cannot take his eyes off of Hamlet, following him everywhere he goes all over the castle, until one fateful time, hiding behind a tapestry, Hamlet takes out his sword and cries, a rat, and runs him through. And when Hamlet realizes what he's done, he speaks, thou wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell. And even in this scene, that same sentiment resonates, as when Polonius loses his mind in giving orders to his servant, much like a doddering old fool. And also as to label the act of meddling the product of a failing or a not-so-with-it state of mind. Other meddlers in this play come to a similar or a fatal end. Hamlet's friends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, having intercepted their letter by the king to take Hamlet to England for beheading, he jumps ship and changes the order to read for their own decapitations. And when Hamlet realizes the reality of what he's done later on in the play, he is not sympathetic at all, and it is more in line with they got what they deserved. He speaks defending his actions with, why, they did make love to this employment, and using fencing language. He says, "'Tis dangerous when the baser nature comes between the pass and fell incensed points of mighty opposites, the pass being the thrust, and the fell fiercely angry rapiers." The second part of this scene may be explained by Polonius's meddling. For when Hamlet appears to Ophelia and does not speak, one has to read him like a mime. And in two interpretations, Polonius is the root and cause of his anguish. Firstly, if Hamlet wants to start spreading the rumor around of his madness, deciding to rock the boat a little bit, he knows that Ophelia's word of him to her father is a sure ticket to the top of all rumors. And secondly, if Hamlet is truly distraught about no longer having Ophelia to turn to, especially in his moment of crisis, Polonius's command to his daughter to cut Hamlet off, and his meddling into his daughter's love affair, has then had very hurtful consequences. There is another meddler in Shakespeare that comes to a disastrous end. Malvolio in his play Twelfth Night. In it, Malvolio has a very puritanical way of spoiling the late-night fun between members of his household and the resident clown or jester. In defense, one of the revelers speaks to him, "Dost thou think, because thou art virtuous, there shall be no more cakes and ale?" It is intriguing to see a possible connection between these meddlers and the Puritans who meddled in Shakespeare's theater, his creative space. Rhetorical attacks and pamphlets called the theater of his time the chapel of Satan, a place that encouraged immoral behavior. But luckily for Shakespeare, he had Queen Elizabeth on his side. She loved the theater. And word of his plays spread all over the world, much like the flourishing of the Renaissance in Italy. The Theatre of London was considered to be the birthplace of a great intellectual achievement in the arts. But in years to come, the Puritans did destroy the Globe Theatre in the year 1644. And in 1648, all theaters were closed down and actors whipped. It took time for cooler heads to prevail, but it was not until the year 1997 that the Globe Theatre was rebuilt. So textually and historically, I think it's safe to suggest that Shakespeare didn't care much for meddlers.